Hey guys, Mr. Colicchio back here with Colicchio's Classroom, and in today's lesson we're actually going to be talking about categorizing history. If you've ever studied history, you know that it's pretty difficult to learn because of all the events that are happening all at once. So the thing that historians do is actually group it together into certain categories. And so today we're going to take those categories and teach you guys how to learn about them so that it makes learning history easier. Let's take a look. So for those of you that have seen my videos before, you know that I'm a big proponent of acronyms to help explain things. Similar to my video about Maine explaining the causes of World War I, I'm going to use an acronym called Persia to explain how we categorize history. Persia, P-E-R-S-I-A, meaning that the P, the E, the R, the S, the I, and of course the A are all going to have a specific category named after the letter that it starts with. So, let's take a look at the first letter, P. So before we get into what all the letters stand for, let's pick a country and just talk about it a little bit. Let's talk about Great Britain, for instance. If we were to look at Great Britain and we were looking at the P of Great Britain, we're looking at the political factors of Great Britain, the first thing we'd want to look at is what type of government it is. Now, throughout history, Great Britain has had a lot of different governments. It had a chieftainship, it was ruled by barbarians, it was ruled during the Roman Empire, it had a monarchy for years, and now today it has a constitutional monarchy. So as you look at the changing of types of government throughout the years, that would be examining the political part of Great Britain. If you were to look at it today, you'd say, well, the politics is that, it's a bicameral constitutional monarchy because it has the two houses of parliament. Another thing that would be considered part of the P is the court system, the laws, the leaders. If you were to talk about Queen Elizabeth, you were talking about the Prime Minister, you were talking about the Parliament, you'd be talking about the political side of Great Britain. If you're talking about voting, that would also be part because you have that direct representation into the government. If we're talking about war, we're talking about governments' feuds with other countries. Therefore, war would also be political. Okay? So now that we're done with the P, let's move on to the E. So we talk about the E, we have to remember one thing, money. Money is a huge part of the economy, which is the E for Persia, or the economic factors. So for instance, what type of economy does your country have? If we're talking about Great Britain, we know that Great Britain used to be the set of the Industrial Revolution, where it began. So we could talk about industry, we could talk about agriculture. Okay, we're talking about the type of labor. So if you're talking about the slave trade that Great Britain had, that would go under the economy. If we're talking about international trade and the Brexit, then we could talk about that being the economic factors. If we're talking about GDP or anything in relation to supply and demand, that's also part of the economy and the economic factors. If we're talking about the actual money they use, so the pound, then we'd be talking about the economic factors. Other than that, we're done with the E. Let's go to the R. Now we're on to R, which is religion. When it comes to religion, and we're using Great Britain again as the example, we would look at what is the major religion or the official religion of the country. We know that Great Britain is an Anglican country because, of course, the religion started there under Henry VIII when he wanted a divorce. And so we look at that, and we also look at what holy books that religion would have. Now, of course, Anglicanism is a Protestant faith, it's a Christian faith, so of course the Holy Bible comes into play here. If we were looking at other countries like Israel or Saudi Arabia, you'd have to look at what their views of religion are. So of course Judaism and Islam, and you'd have to look at the holy books of that, so the Torah and of course the Quran. If you're going to India, you'd have to look at the Hindu Mahabharata, okay? We have to remember how big of a role that religion plays on these countries. If you're looking throughout history, religion is going to play a more prominent role in the country rather than in the present day where religion kind of has a back seat because of secularism. Now that we're done with the R, we're going to jump to the S. S stands for social, and social is big because it encompasses so much. When we look at S, we're talking about family order. Is it a patriarchal, meaning that do the men run the country, or is it matriarchal, do the women? How are the relations between the genders? Is there a role for women? Is there a role for children? Is there a role for the men? Are there social classes? Is there a caste system? Do they have slavery? What type of entertainment? Do they have sports? Is there a giant coliseum where people fight each other to the death? That would all be including into social. The thing that we have to be careful of is social and intellectual, which is our next letter, which is I, because intellectual is more so a focus on the arts. And the arts, so arts, painters, music, musicians, writers, literature, philosophy, math, science, education, inventions, all these things get put into intellectual because they change how a country thinks. If you look at Europe, especially Great Britain, during the scientific revolution, you have somebody like Isaac Newton. He has a very important role for Great Britain and its depth as a country to grow. And the last letter we have is A. A is area, and if you can't remember area, think of geography. Where are they located on the map? What is the physical environment? What is the topography? Do they have any major river basins that they grew upon? If you think about England, you know that they have a lot of rivers, and that's what made the Industrial Revolution so successful. You have to think about not only the geography, but the human relation to the geography. So anything that has to do with the geography goes into area. To recap, P stands for political, E stands for economic, R stands for religion, S stands for social, I stands for intellectual, or the arts, and A is area or geography. To become a better learner of history, one must simplify it, and to simplify it means to categorize it into smaller chunks so that it makes it easier to learn. I hope that through this lesson you guys can understand how and why historians look at history in certain ways. Until next time, thanks for watching.